Happy day, Vibe Tribe. Happy day. Rocking with your favorite friendly friend, Dana. Stickity, stickity motivator. Vibes that are greater. It's your girl, ennyarodasi, also known as Jitty Beats. Oh. No, it's not moving. Alright, let me fix this light. Alright. Stickity, stickity. So, today we are going to have an experiment, and the experiment has to do with my medicines. So, I just we're fresh out of the shower. Have a little bit of lipstick. And that's about it. So, our experiment has to do with my medicines. So, my medicines are carbamazine and buspirone. Now, I'm supposed to have these medicines twice a day. Take one tablet by mouth twice a day. Both tablets, both the carbamazine and the buspirone. And I want to see if it changes my personality at all. I want to see if it dulls my personality. Now, I was talking about being self-confident. Now, the realms of war are at hand. So, I was noticing, I was realizing, whenever I go like this, I'm thinking goal, I'm thinking, equal, I'm thinking contrast, I'm thinking, whatever this is success, whenever the goalie is like, goal, and, I was noticing, I'm noticing these little flares, and I'm like, that is definitely not a goal. That is definitely not something that, should be, should be normal. It's not normal for me, especially whenever I have tight skin, So, I was yelling. I was literally yelling. I was like talking about how, people, and I'm the first thing that you think of is, who else do I know, or who else have I, watched that has the same, would be symptoms, because, I could feel every time that it's like, it's protruding, and it has nothing to do with my level of, my volume level or my tone, it has to do with, I think it's like somebody trying to pull my strings and pull a response out of me. Now, I wanted to make the medicine, because I noticed I recognized in a 2-hour stream, that halfway through the stream, I'm like, where am I? I'm sitting right there. It's like, lights on, nobody home. And I want to make sure that, because this is supposed to be a mood stabilizer, it's not supposed to be a a personality suppressor, And no, so I've been on a myriad of medications since I was 12. And, I was talking to my mom. I was like, so why did you put me on medication? She's like, if you can't control your kid, then put them on medication. I was like, were you one of those parents that, get, fed me NyQuil or something, while I was crying? And she's like, no, of course not. And I was like, all right. And so I told her, I was like, I was watching my stream, and she's like, and I told her what I just told you, like halfway through my stream, it was like my personality was completely changed, and it seemed like I'm still there, I'm still with it, I'm just like, who is that? That is not me, And also I realized that, for me, because we don't have the microphone yet, the microphone will be in about a week. So, I was realizing that the music kind of sometimes, it doesn't drain my voice. It clashes, It kind of clashes with my voice. And so that's something. And, I'm so happy for edits because sometimes I'm not thinking about what I'm saying. I had said something to where, those that love and care about me would be like, are you serious right now? So, we have some spaghetti. We have some tomatoes. And we have my medicines that we are going to test today. And we are going to, if I, because I was like, I'm sitting right there. Like, how could I not, realize that, that a switch went on in my brain or something where it's like, all right, your personality is now now 0. And we're trying to make sure that we're not shadow banned from YouTube because, that's been one of my goals. I started streaming on mobile platforms and, there's been so many different stories of streamers. And a lot of the streamers, they stream on mobile platforms and stuff like that. They just, their branding and stuff is different. And I was thinking, I was like, so as far as branding and stuff, I was like, I hope that I didn't brand myself. In a way that, okay, so there's a thumbnail on that I posted on my Facebook from an episode that I really enjoyed of a YouTube episode. And so I haven't had my medicine, alright, I was rewinding fast forward. So I was talking about, I can't remember what I was talking about in the episode. All I remember is the thumbnail. And so, I have this light back here. So I had, this light is more of like a wavy light. So, the light I had, it had like random colors, and it would project random colors. And I had a red color, red light on my neck. And I'm like, I'm trying to think of, of things and stuff. So I was talking about how memes should work. you know, it should be everyone except you, you know? And, and so you realize it for yourself, you're like, hold on, where the hell did this come from? And you're like, oh my God, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my God, I'm praying to God that, you know, alright, so you know that you eat at least 8 spiders a year, you know, because if you sleep with your mouth open. Now, if you're eating spiders, you don't think that, you know, you're not gonna realize, you know, special services, freaking ninjas coming into your house, having, you know, sleep fog, and freaking shoving something down your throat, or fucking, you know, cutting the inside of your mouth or some shit, you know, and then you would be like, hold on, who do they do that for? You know, because if it's working for everyone else except the person that made the meme, because, you know, a joke is not supposed to, if I make a joke, it's not supposed to apply to me. So I was thinking about, you know, personalities and stuff, and I was like, I'm thinking about who to place blame on, because I was like, I know I'm not to blame, because I know that me, naturally, I can talk for freaking hours. You know, I can talk your freaking ear off. You know, that was what makes me an amazing podcaster. That's what makes me an amazing streamer, because I have a way, you know, my personality shines through. And, you know, I mean, you know, I was watching one of the 2-hour episodes, and, you know, I began to feel more love, you know, for myself. You know, I'm like, that's me. You know, there's no one else in the world that's like me. And, you know, so thinking about, you know, because I would make, you know, before I was on any of this medicine stuff, and, you know, before I was in any of these classes or whatever, you know, I didn't have, you know, anything suppressing my personality. You know, if I wanted to have a drink, I could have a drink. If I wanted to have a smoke, I would have a smoke, you know? And it was not a big deal. You know, and nobody in my vicinity was making a big deal about it. My neighbors weren't making a big deal about it. If I had a roommate, my roommate was not making a big deal about it. And, you know, so and then my family is different. My family is like, oh, you're supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to drink or smoke, and you know, all this streaming stuff is bad for you. I'm like, no, it's not. You know, this is the only way that I could, you know, feasibly, you know, project my emotions in a way that is helpful and the way that is, you know, is amazing to those that want to, you know, monetize on my personality. You know, that's something that I could dream of. You know, 1 million diamonds ain't nothing. You know, to 1 million subscribers and, you know, brand deals and all this stuff. You know, whenever you're not branding yourself. You're branding the world around you, so you could walk around and you could laugh. You know, you could walk around and you could smile. Because, you know, and then you would think, what kind of personality would they brand for? And I was like, and I started thinking, you know, I started watching around, you know, doing my, you know, studying around. I'm like, these people don't even have a freaking personality. They're just sitting in front of a fucking camera putting fucking stickers on their fucking face. And I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if if we're from the same town. I don't give a fuck if we're from the same state. I don't give a fuck if we're the same race, religion. You know, I don't give a fuck. You know, don't you fucking try to push your fucking morals on me. And then so you'll realize on my Facebook I have a fucking picture of, you know, stickers all over my face because I thought it was fucking ridiculous. You know, oh, you guys are monetizing from this? Oh, please let me, you know, not be a part of that. You know, and please go ahead and fucking, you know, let me judge y'all for being fucking retards. Oh my god, I don't have a personality, you know, I have a little bit of looks. Do you want to fucking, you know, I have a lot of looks. maybe if it was for this fucking idiot online, you know, that was fucking, oh, you know, I'm gonna put some blush on my face, and, you know, I'm gonna put some stickers, you know, and I'm gonna brand the whole fucking, you know, Latino community. Fuck that. You know, I'm sure that there are Indians, I'm sure that there are, you know, so many different nationalities that are tan skin and that are thinking that this person is a fucking retard. You know, first off, who the fuck didn't ban this person from fucking having a fucking opinion? Oh yeah, that's a fucking First Amendment, man. You know, we need to practice our First Amendment, man. You know, it should not be is that you're pushing your fucking, you know, religion on people. It's the moment, you know, though, you know, there's a difference between pushing your religion on people and memeing. And of course, if you're memeing, you're not thinking that you're gonna fucking meme yourself, you know. And then if you do meme yourself, it's like, hold on, did you just like freaking make yourself not a part of the community that you had freaking created? It's like, things and subjects. You create a community. Sometimes, now this sounds crazy. Oh yeah, you create a community, you not be a part of it. you make a joke so it doesn't apply to you. You know? Things and stuff and such. You know, you have a, you know, things that's stuff and such. So I was thinking about it, you know, because I've had this like bump here. I'm praying to God. I'm like, hopefully it's Botox. Hopefully it's Botox. You know, because on one of my thumbnails, you know, they're gifting me just the one dime, the one coin gift. It's like, It was like, It was like on my face or whatever. You know, because, you know, this is the format of the mobile streams. And then, you know, so I've had this one for over, for some weeks now. And I'm just thinking, I hope it's Botox. You know, I hope it's something that's gonna, you know, add to the stream. It's gonna add to my personality. It's gonna add to my happiness, my level of happiness. Now that's another thing. You know, I'm over here being happy, you know, I'm over here being positive can be. You know, I hope that, you know, that reflects to myself, you know. Botox and filler for me. Fuck all your faces up, you know. That makes sense, you know. That makes sense. And to, you know, fuck up all your faces, you have to be in front of it, you know. Step one, you have to be in front of, you know, you have to be recording yourself, you have to be a streamer, you know. The jokes need to ring out, you know. They're not just, oh, it rings out for yourself, yeah, there's a joke. Yeah, no, the fuck it's not. You know, no the fuck it's not. I believe I can fly, you know, I believe I can touch the sky, you know. I'm gonna wipe that smirk off your face. I'm gonna have more respect and, you know, and my pinky finger for you ennyarodasi, aka Jenny Beats, than the rest of the world. I'd be happy with that, you know? Not, you know, I'm gonna meme on everybody else, and I'm gonna, you know, let you sit, you know, on your pedestal. You know? That's what you want. You know, that's what we want, you know? We want, you know, because every time that we are watching, you know, that we're chatting with Lo-Fi Girl Chat, there's at least 13,000 people in there. You know, so what if, you know, I was thinking, I was like, what if my viewers were actually in the millions, you know, and the hundreds of thousands, and, you know, for whatever fucking bad reason, you know, YouTube's like, I'm not gonna fucking monetize that, you know, because We don't fuck with people that put stickers on their face. And that's why I covered my face with stickers. Because I was making a meme of, some ridiculous qualities of people in life. And, things and stuff and such. Sometimes you have to think outside of the box, Because all these people sometimes want to place you in a box. It's like, no, I'm an outside of the box thinker. That is my right as an American. You can't tell me otherwise. Unless, you are enhancing my life and things and stuff and such. So I have not had my night dose. I was supposed to have the medicine twice a day. I had my medicine once. And I realized at my cookout, I was like, I was the same way I was during that one episode. I'm like, wearing my lights on, nobody's home. Like, normally I have so many things to talk about, I'm very personal, and I was just, being a little shy. I was being like a little shy girl or something, and, the inside, my personality on the inside was like, let me out! So, that's something fun. We shall have an experiment of the utmost respect. Because, it's supposed to be mood stabilizers. I don't even know what the heck that means. Mood state. Because the carbamazine says take one tablet by mouth twice a day for mood. This one, take one tablet by mouth twice a day for anxiety. Alright, so I have anxiety. I feel like, is the doctor trying to blaspheme me? And also because my doctor, and I need to literally have a talk with my therapist, because if you have not watched me for at least 5 minutes, if you have not watched me for at least 20 minutes, you would realize that I have ADHD, and I utilize my ADHD in my content, I utilize my ADHD for, to stabilize my mood, I stream, and that's become, a lifestyle for me. And I would hope that YouTube forgave all these, bad jokes or whatever. It could be, I think if you're out in India, you notice something, within the slightest difference, and then you think about everywhere that could originate from, and you could fucking grow to hate the fucking Hispanic community because of a bad fucking joke. Yeah, because, you're not over here, monetizing all these people and all this stuff and things to please the wants of, maybe in their mind, they're like, oh, we're here to please the wants of, a little girl that doesn't have a fucking personality. I'm sure that, the version of yourself that is more mature, in software design and all of that sort of internet stuff would not be, would not take too kindly to realizing, memes on their, on people that they claim to, and they don't have to necessarily claim, you would think that, they claimed as their own. They adopted within their own, because maybe if I'm the only one that's like me within, the Hispanic race, I would hope that, somebody else from a different race would adopt me because, you don't have to be a part of bad jokes. That's all I'm saying. And then, gives Indians and stuff the theoretically sound right to, be the big boss. If you realize how Hispanics are moving, they're like, it's not that, there's a difference between a runt and there's a difference between a genius. A genius amongst, the seemingly far and few between of, the American culture. Just so happens, that, there's many ways that you can upset an Indian, just like there's there's many ways that you could, try to force your fucking religion on people. Or try to, shadow ban yourself. So, that's why, I'm over here, happy and, wishful, to that a career can, become of my personality that is not a fault, that is, within, regulations and, that makes people look good. That makes me look good. Maybe, why do I sit over here and make people look good if I'm going to sit over here and make myself look stupid? If I, there's a difference between being stupid and it's only dummies that, they're like, I'm gonna, pick on this stupid person because I'm a dummy. And, I didn't think of that first. So, whatever you say. Because you have to think about the people around you. And what if there was a fire and not even the people around you were putting out the fire? What if the people farthest and closest to you were putting out the fucking fire? And things and stuff and such, If you could eat 8 spiders, if it's natural for you to, eat at least 8 spiders a year, you don't think there are ninjas coming in with sleep fog, And so, they're like, we're gonna fuck with you while you sleep, Because whenever you were a little kid, at parties, the permanent marker came out, writing shit on your face, writing shit on people's necks, writing shit on people's foreheads, it's like, I suck dick or something, Which, if you were a classy girl, maybe you wouldn't have, you wouldn't have to, never mind, let's leave the, let's not, let's not, leave the things that bring us joy. Happiness is not supposed to be the opposite of happiness. It's not. Happiness is supposed to be what it is. And my mom's over here thinking, oh my god, yeah, you're gonna have this medicine, you're gonna be happy. I'm like, alright, are you happy now that I'm on this medicine? She's like, yes. Well, what if, I'm not happy being a friggin', has nothing to say? What do you mean has nothing to say? This is ennyarodasi. This is Jenny Beats, the chick that always has something to say about, big things, small things, in between things. But no, like big, it sounds bad. It sounds worse than it is. Don't worry. Things and stuff and such. Shout out to the guys out there that are like, they're very dedicated, to their women, I was at my friend's cookout, and him and his girlfriend have been together for like 30-something years. So, I'm like, God bless you guys, And he's always, talking to me about things that he's gonna buy or do for her. He's like, do you think that she'll like this? And I was like, oh, of course, she'd love that. So he does something for her, and she loves it. And he's like, thank you for the advice. I'm like, anytime, And I've always respected their relationship. They were, whenever I had first met him through another friend, he was always with his girl. He was always very respectful. He was always very thoughtful. Of his, of his company and everything. And so, that's something to be. That should be a goal right there. Because they have an amazing relationship. And I would only, enjoy to have my friends meet him and meet her to, so they can be like, wow, these people are really happy, and, they've been together for 30-something years, and, that freaking puts hookup culture in the trash. For real. You're not gonna have, happiness. I don't know, the study was about people in monogamous relationships. The study wasn't about, people that, fuck around. Because then they find out, they're like, I'm not happy, It's like, you make your life choices. Maybe you should have chose to pick one girl and stick with her, and spend as much time as you can with her, because that's the chivalrous way. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna claim you as my girlfriend, and I'm gonna talk to you like once a month or something. Try harder. Do better. exude more effort, exude more honest effort, it's not being turned down. It's like, there's a statute of limitations on on the whole relationship thing. And we're not going to talk about the relationship thing because I have, I'm enjoying myself right now. I'm kind of scared to have my medicine and be like, I have nothing to say. What happened to all the things to say? It's like, I'm not on medicine now. That's freaking terrifying. You're not supposed to always believe all these doctors. Oh, you're on mood stabilizer, this tablet's for your mood, this tablet's for your anxiety, now you're going to be happy. Alright, what happened to my personality? What if my personality makes me happy? What then? Are you going to freaking, find some other drug within the myriad of drugs to, prescribe to me? So so my personality is not freaking lost in the transaction of, carbamazine and buspirone. What the fuck is that? And I know you're probably asking yourself, and then, let's talk about branding and all that other stuff. And you're like, maybe I didn't deserve that, what the fuck is carbamazine? I don't know. They have all these, medicines, in the myriad of psychiatrics and, the okay, so psychiatrics are pretty much like a rave, the pharmaceutical companies send representatives to the psychiatric, or to the psychologists. They give them a bunch of free samples. They're like, oh, this is Zoloft. This is for depression, And so all the psychologists are like, oh, sounds like you have depression. Let's give you a Zoloft. First off, have you ever tested that shit on yourself? Have you ever watched any of the market study? Hell no. They just promoted, they're like, oh, we'll be in better graces with the pharmaceutical industry if we accept the samples, and if we give out the samples, and then they will be in their better graces. Now we're experimenting on people's life. I remember being on Zoloft, and I was like, I'm depressed as fuck. Because I'm not depressed, it's my anxiety. They labeled me with all sorts of friggin', mental health stuff. And, streaming is good for my mental health, it's not something that everybody can do. Also, not everyone can talk to themselves for hours. It doesn't matter if your chat is, spam a million times a minute, you're still essentially talking to yourself. And, there must be, everybody that must have, mental disabilities if they're, if that's their way of, being. Because, you can't fucking sit over here and tell me, oh my gosh, you talk to yourself for hours. I'm a podcaster. I'm a streamer. I make content for YouTube. Whenever you're listening to me, laying down in bed, there's that voice that's like, hey, there's some entertainment there. There's much of an entertainment value to people that are, making sense, and reasoning while they're just being themselves. Oh, you can talk about something different every day? Yeah. Yeah, and I can make, I can make it to, be, it could be amazing for hours, my streams where I have 4 or 5 hour streams, and I remember enjoying every minute of it, you know? Every minute of it. Now, now they're clipping my streams at like 20 minutes because, and I'm realizing, I'm like, it must be because before I would stream, or at the beginning of every stream here recently, I have my medicines, I put it under my tongue, and, things and stuff and touch. I did not think that there was I didn't think that there would be a difference in my personality until recently. I'm like, where is Jenny? I'm sitting there, chat's scrolling. Normally I'm, commenting on chat. Normally I'm reading chat. No, I was just sitting there. And then there was music playing. I'm like, I haven't heard my voice in freaking 20 minutes. What in the world is this? And then, the music was clashing with, the things that, what I'm saying and whatnot. Like, no, I'm not gonna, it's not supposed, that's kind of, if I'm gonna sit here and then comment on every, lyric that doesn't, quite settle with me, I'm like, no. Do I mind? Yeah, in fact, I do. Get your shit together. At least, at the very least, everyone else that's streaming besides me, go ahead. Have your fun. Brand. Do your thing. Work your magic. Work that. No. Well, fuck you then. There's no fucking reason that we should be fucking talking if you think you're only gonna fucking talk to me. No, that's not how it works. You don't think the kings and queens, they be memeing, and their meme is not supposed to be a joke on them. And no. I'm the queen, I'm the king of this castle. You better recognize. Stiggity. They were going through the TikToks and whatever, and some people have a hard time saying stiggity. So they'll say schmiggity something. Sniggly. Gotta call you G Willikers. I'm not, that is part of the things that I say. And sometimes, I'm not saying I'm not saying gosh golly G Willikers. Sometimes I say just something good. Sometimes there's like something horrible. I'm like, gosh golly G Willikers. Sometimes there's something amazing. I'm like, gosh golly G Willikers, and so on and so forth. So I was also, my dad used to say, and so on. And I'm not sure if it was a heart medication or something they had him on. Because my dad had multiple open heart surgeries. And I'm like, thank God, thank God I have a good heart, And so we should, when my grandfather and my mama got sick, I should be on medications and stuff that are, or whatever. I don't need to be on medications. Maybe, my lifestyle and my people are supposed to be like, alright, there's sciences that, that are like anti-freaking bad heart stuff. Have some of that. There's anti, things and stuff and such. So you know, whenever we're talking, we need to be talking to large crowds, you know? And this is the thing, like, oh my god, am I telling them to talk to myself? I'm like, no, don't talk to me. No, don't talk to me. There's no reason you should be talking to me right now. Oh yeah, because I'm one of you. No, are you one of me? You wanna fucking, wash that fucking smile off your face? That would be quite pleasing, because other than that, it makes me want to smack every bitch that looks like me. I'm like, seriously, it's making me. I'm gonna meme all over your face. Drip, drip, drip. I'm gonna piss on you. I'm gonna use your face like a toilet seat. Drip, drip, drip. Bitch, I'm gonna piss on you! Alright. So, still haven't had my medicine. I'm happy about it. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. There's jalapenos and there's spaghetti. There's jalapenos in the spaghetti. It's alright, I guess. It's good. It makes it spicy. I am currently ignoring everything around me, because if I was on fire, it feels like the people that are just around me, the people that really care about me, they're gonna be like, we're gonna start a fucking war, we're gonna freaking, we're gonna make Jenny's life better. God, yeah. We're gonna make Jenny more, self-confident. We're gonna make everybody else self-conscious. God. Why? Because, why not? The rate of memeing, needs to increase by, by the trillions. By the trillions! Stiggity, stiggity. So, nice! Nice! Some of these things are like, are you trying to speak English, or are you just being stickity stickity over there? Like, I'm gonna make words up. So, naturally, I have been watching the stream in the background. I just haven't switched the screen over because I'm smart like that, So I feel like, maybe somewhere in my subconscious, I knew that there's alarms, in my personality that are like, oh my gosh, I'm not here to fucking please you. How about you fucking get a goddamn fucking life and stay the fuck out of my face? Sound like a good idea? Because I'm sure as fuck not here. Oh my gosh. Somebody wrote something in chat. I need to confirm it. No, the fuck you don't. I need to confirm that you're a real fucking person before that. You can sub to my Twitch. It's only $5. You know, it proves that you're a real fucking person. Other than that, stay the fuck out of my fucking face. Oh my gosh, you know, spam eyes in the chat so I can fucking make more fucking jokes about bitches that wear fucking stickers on their face. If you don't have nothing productive to say, then shut the fuck up. How about that? Put on a fucking bikini and fucking, you know, sit the fuck down. Oh no, you know, it's not a kink that, you know, ugly pregnant fucking Mexicans, you know, in bikinis, you know, oh, yeah, spam the eyes. Fucking idiot. As long as that meme is gonna fucking work against you, because where the fuck is the personality to fucking uphold all the fucking bullshit? Oh, there is none? You know, I'm just a gold digger, and you know, I'm representing the, you know, the Mexican community. Shut the fuck up. No, you aren't. You ain't shit. Somebody needs to tell her that. Find yourself some fucking information that you can fucking talk about. You know? Let's go for a walk today. Oh, you represent the fucking Mexican culture? Yeah, it is a little bit devilish, ain't it? You know, that's what I'm thinking in my mind. I don't say anything, I'm thinking it in my mind, I'm like, fucking retard. Oh, you shut up!